if anybody you know wasn't able to make it, please let them know that we're going to post that and they can get information from here. Okay?
So, hi everybody, I'm Janet Alder. I'm a director of the Graduate School of Biomedical Sciences down at the other campus at Robert Wood Johnson Medical School. And I'm also a faculty member in the Department of Neuroscience and Cell Biology down there. So I'm going to start with a quick physical exercise. All right, I want everybody to stand up. Get you awake late in the day. All right, so if you know what you want to do when you leave Rutgers, sit down. Okay, so most of you are still standing. Now, if you sat down, you know what you want to do, but you don't know how to achieve that career goal. Like, you need guidance in terms of who to make contact with, what you need to do to make yourself marketable and competitive in that area. Stand back up. Okay, so look around. Pretty much all of you are standing, and that means that iJOBS is the good program for you. Because you can sit down now. Our goal is to, first of all, expose you to the different career options that are out there besides academia, which we're mostly familiar with, and also to help you gain the tools to make yourself competitive. So we're not going to completely train you necessarily in the career of your choosing, but tell you what you need to do to help you get that job. So you have a set of goals to achieve that end. Okay, so the idea behind the NIH releasing this request for applications called the BEST grant, which stands for Broadening Experiences in Scientific Training, was this data that was produced by a working group in 2012. And basically, you just need to focus on this last panel. And you can see by the red line, which is declining over time from 1993 to 2008, those are the people who have academic tenure or tenure track positions. And you can extrapolate potentially to 2014. The number's down around 20% of people who have PhDs 20 years after getting their PhD are in academic positions. Concurrently, you see an increase in this greenish line, which is the non-academic, non-research positions. And again, if you extrapolate, that number is going to reach now close to 60 to 80% of people who have PhDs 20 years later are doing non-academic, non-research careers. So that was what the NIH saw, and they said, well, we need to address this situation because we're training PhDs to do academic faculty positions, and yet that's not really what they're ending up doing. So the BEST program was established, as I said, what it stands for. There were 17 schools that have been awarded this grant, and the goal is to prepare students for non-academic careers. And as Dr. Garrett said, we got the grant in 2014, and we're going to launch the program this January. So it's a quick turnaround time, and I think everything we do is going to be sort of a trial phase. So we want your feedback. Is what we're doing working or not? This is going to be a developing, evolving program. We want input. We may stumble along the way. We hope you're patient with us. It's a lot of different people. We have 2 campuses. We have postdocs. We have grad students. We have multiple departments, multiple graduate programs. So we're all trying to wrap our heads around it and make it as successful as possible. So this is the list of different schools who were awarded the grant. There were 10 in the first year and 7 the second year. So we're one of the second year cohorts. And this is a 5-year grant for $2 million. Now what's important to realize is that none of that money can be used for graduate student stipends, postdoc stipends, or tuition. So it's all money that's supposed to go for infrastructure, building programs that will be sustainable after the 5 years that the grant is over, and that we may continue to offer these programs. So, bringing in speakers, establishing classes that we can take over ourselves and run through the graduate school is the goal. Our closest best school is NYU, and we plan to do some activities in conjunction with them and share best practices so we can take advantage of their proximity. Our program is called iJOBS. I hope Steve Jobs isn't rolling over in his grave, but it's interdisciplinary job opportunities for biomedical scientists, and we will empower our PhD students and postdocs to take action towards career development, build the knowledge, professional network, and experience needed to reach their goals. So New Jersey is the perfect place to launch such a program. We're known as the medicine cabinet of the world because we have over 3,000 life science and pharma establishments and 350 biotech companies. In addition, many of the largest pharmaceutical companies are located in New Jersey. We're located between New York City and Philadelphia, so we have a lot to take advantage of in terms of the universities there and the city, what it has to offer in terms of networking. Okay, so Dr. Garrett started to mention some of the people involved. Dr. Yarmish, who is, he has a joint appointment at Harvard and Rutgers in the biomedical engineering department, and Jim Milenig, who is the Senior Associate Dean of GSBS at RWJMS. We're the PIs of the grant. Susan Engelhardt, myself, and Dr. Garrett are what we call program directors, meaning we're helping implement the program on each of our sites. And we have a lot of help from Nadine, Hal Salzman, and Jennifer Cleary. I'll describe their role a little bit later. Sunita Chaudhry and Francois Bertillon. And then there was a lot of input from other people. This was actually the second time that the biomedical engineering department applied for the grant. The first time was pre-merger with UMDNJ, and so they had a lot of people that helped them with the first iteration of the grant and gave a lot of input into the types of programming curriculum that should be offered. And just interrupt me if you have any questions along the way. So the goals of the program are to give you guys the skills and career preparedness to be successful in the workforce. And then there's an important component of our grant, which I think the NIH reviewers really appreciated, which is that we are customizing our program according to the workforce needs. So we're going to go out into the pharma and biotech industry and ask them, when you hired somebody, what was it that this person had that the other person who didn't get the job didn't have? And how can we give you guys the skills that that first person who got the job has? And then we're going to come back and change and tailor our programming to fit that sort of supply and demand attitudes. And then, we hope to eventually streamline what the university offers so we can keep this program going beyond the 5 years. Okay, so there are different phases of the iJOBS program. The first phase we call Inquire, and it's really just to expose you to the different options out there. So it's a sampling of different non-academic careers, and it will be open to everybody. So you can sign up for a particular activity and come to it. If some of them are going to be slightly restricted in terms of size, if we're going someplace that they can't accommodate a lot of people, for example. And then the second phase is where you would apply to the program to be officially entered into the second phase, and you would have more individualized mentoring and career planning. That's the initiate phase. The third phase is really getting ready to go out into the work interview and job placement arena. And then the fourth phase is where you are an alum of the program and come back to serve as a mentor to the current people in the program. So, you will have skills and knowledge now about getting your job and hopefully come back and share that with the current mentees. Okay, so specifically what happens in each phase. In the first phase, we have something called PhD, Leadership and Business Training for Scientists. We're going to go on site visits, like field trips, when you're in first and second grade. Networking sessions, seminars and career panels, and then we have a website which will have a lot of information. And I'm going to go through some of these in more detail. In the second phase, we're going to have individual development plans and mentorship pods. You'll take classes in the particular career that you've identified as your interest, and you're also going to be able to go shadow somebody in the workplace 1 day a month. In phase 3, you'll develop your resume, prepare for your interviews, go to career fairs, and we'll work with you on job placement. And then, as I said, in the 4th phase, you provide support and mentorship to the current participants. So we've identified 5 tracks. Now, that's not to say that there aren't other career tracks, but we felt like these were ones that are somewhat unique to what Rutgers has to offer, are relevant to the area that we live in, and other than science writing and education, which we don't have on here, we felt like this covered things that you might not be aware of. So health and science policy is an area. The Blaustein School at Rutgers is very well known, and we hope to take advantage of that. We have a great law school at Rutgers, 2 of them actually. So we're going to offer intellectual property management. Because of our pharmaceutical collaborations, we have business management for pharma. Clinical testing and regulatory support seems to be an area with a lot of job openings and a big need for that. So we feel like the PhDs can provide a source for those jobs. And then, that concept of big data, all these numbers that are being produced by tons of studies, they need to be analyzed. So we call that the health data analysis track. And so the kinds of jobs that you might have in each one of those tracks, health and science policy, you could be a legislative affairs specialist, a lobbyist, a policy consultant, an IP management. You could be a patent agent, an IP licensing manager, a case manager for tech transfer, IP portfolio analyst, a business management person, could do marketing and business strategies, be a medical scientist, mergers and acquisitions, new product introduction, medical and health services manager, clinical and regulatory testing support, somebody who does clinical diagnostics, clinical trials manager, and IRB protocol development. And then health and data analysis includes epidemiologists, biostatisticians, and medical informaticists. So that's just a sampling of the kinds of jobs so you can get a sense of what each one means. Now, we want the program to be available to as many people as possible. So we have all of these graduate programs that are NJMS, RWJMS, and Graduate School New Brunswick. I know you probably can't read it, so this is all going to be posted online. Those are the students who are eligible, and the postdocs who are eligible come from these departments at all of the different schools. The gray means that we're going to add them in the 2nd year of the program because we sort of need to phase in and scale up. We just can't handle a huge volume at the very beginning. And then in addition, recent alumni are going to be eligible. So what I want you to appreciate is the priority is going to be given to 3rd-year pre-docs and 1st-year postdocs initially, and then 4th-year pre-docs and 2nd-year postdocs. But if you're a 1st or 2nd-year pre-doc, your time will come where you'll get priority. And if you're beyond a 4th-year pre-doc or postdoc, you will be able to participate as an alum when you graduate. That's not to say you won't be able to participate in activities now, but if there is something that has a limited size of what we can accommodate, this is going to be our order of priority. So I hope everybody understands and appreciates that we want to accommodate as many people as possible. We had to set up sort of a criteria, and everybody should be able to participate at some point in different aspects. So this is just an example of all the companies we've gotten to pledge support for this. So it's huge. The outcry is really impressive from outside the university as well as inside the university. So we have pledges from the Dean of the Law School and the Business School and the Blaustein School to help us design, take their courses, design new courses in the future. And these companies all say, I wish somebody had something like this when I was in graduate school or postdoc. So I think they get it, and hopefully we can work through the logistics to offer you as many opportunities as possible at these companies. Okay, so what is the most important thing to go back and tell your PIs? That you're still going to be doing research. This does not mean that your research has fallen down in the list of priorities. You must have good papers. You must be getting your own funding as much as possible. These things on your resume are essential for every job you will apply for. We have had people come and tell us, you know, they're in patent law now, but the reason that they got that job was because they had amazing publications and they showed their resourcefulness in getting their own funding. So you have to maintain your focus in the lab, and your PIs have to understand that most of our programming is going to take place after hours. Evenings, weekends, you know, if you're committed to this, that'll be possible, but you're going to have to learn to balance the research along with everything else. Is that clear? Cool. All right. So in addition, well, let me just go through. This is a list of the kinds of programs we're going to be offering. What we hope is that each participant will have at least 12 hours of participation in a variety of these opportunities. So like I said, if something has a limited size and you didn't get on that particular site visit that we're going to, hopefully you'll be able to attend other activities that are on campus and make up the 12 hours. So we want to see commitment in order for you to be able to progress to the second phase of the program. That's how we're going to be deciding partially who gets to go into the second phase where you do the shadowing, et cetera. So we have individual development plans, which everybody is supposed to be doing anyway, site visits, shadowing, networking sessions like speed dating where you talk to somebody for 5 minutes and you want to make a good impression on them, so we're going to help you learn how to do that. Career-specific panels. We've started these a little bit on our campus. We have one in December where people are coming from the Department of Health to talk about careers in New Jersey Department of Health. We have somebody who does newborn screening and somebody else who does like biological safety. So if you're interested in coming down to that, I'll send out the information. And then in the spring, we're going to start having alternate sites. So we're going to have every other month, a career panel here at Newark. And then the other month, it'll be back down at New Brunswick. It's actually Piscataway. We're going to have brown bag lunches, so we're looking for people to take leadership roles, and these are supposed to be led by the trainees. Somebody might have an interest in bringing in a particular speaker. We're happy to help organize that and support that so you guys can have your own programming. Workshops, so the PhD workshop, career-specific skills courses, all sorts of things that sometimes are already offered on campus or that we're going to be developing. Career fairs and an annual symposia where we'll bring in keynote speakers. So what is the PhD? This is a course that, or workshop I guess is what you should call it, that the New York Academy of Sciences runs every year, and NYU runs it as part of their BEST program, and a lot of other BEST programs have adopted this model. So it's very, very popular. There are two guys who have been in academia and industry who come and run the workshop. And the idea is that after the second year, we're going to be running this workshop ourselves. So the first 2 years, we can only offer it once a year, and it accommodates 70 participants. After the first 2 years, we're going to be able to offer it multiple times because we won't be paying them to do it, so we can run it ourselves, and we'll be able to increase our size. So these are the topics that they cover. It's 40 hours. We're going to be meeting Monday nights from 5 to 8 and 3 Sundays. This is all happening in February and March. And it's going to be in Piscataway. So hopefully you guys can make it down, and I'll be explaining how to sign up for it. IDPs. So this is something that everybody is supposed to now be doing. Hopefully you're aware of it. The NIH is requiring it for students and postdocs who are in training grants and highly recommending it for everybody else. It's been shown that IDPs increase productivity in the lab, decrease time to leaving the lab, either be that graduation or end of postdoc. And it really is a good way to measure your achievements of your goals that you've set out the prior year. So for the graduate students, we have a Sakai site where you should be going to, I think the next slide, here it is. A Sakai site where you should be going to fill out either the AAAS if you're a first and third year student. The website is on the Sakai site and also listed here. And the second and fourth year students are supposed to catch up because this is the first year we're offering it. So they should do the AAAS IDP and the Rutgers IDP form. And then have a meeting. So if you're a second year, you have a meeting with your PI and somebody from the graduate school. And if you're a fourth year, you should also bring in a mentor from outside in your area who works in your area of future interest. So we'll help you organize these meetings if you reach out to us. But the deadline is August 31st for completing them, and please don't wait until August because these meetings need to be set up. For postdocs, we're requiring anybody who's taking the PhD class to submit an IDP, so we'll add you to the Sakai site. And we're working on a Rutgers-based postdoc IDP. So that should be, I've seen a draft version of it, and hopefully that'll be coming out in the next month or two. So the shadowing, as I said, we had a lot of industries support the idea of having students and postdocs come in to shadow. And you'll be matched to somebody who has a career that you're interested in, although you're not committed to stick to that person for the whole year. So let's say you do 2 shadowing events with that person and you're like, not for me. Why should you stay going, keep going for another 7 months? So we'll help you find a different shadowing person. Or if you want a sample, you can try a different person every month. The idea is that it cannot exceed 1 day a month so that you have time in the lab to do research. Okay? Now, once you're in phase 2, you're doing the shadowing and you're doing the career-specific classes. So this is a list of the classes that we've selected with the help from the deans of the different schools that are relevant to the careers. Initially, we're going to be offering these classes. Eventually, we want to create classes that are unique to the people in the iJOBS program. So they will be case-based classes, like, here's a typical kind of project that you would be faced with if you were in public policy, science policy, and you work as a group to, do that project, so you really get more hands-on real-life experience. That's the goal. We're not going to be able to do that the first few years, so we're going to be using these existing courses. You'll have to take 2 courses, 1 per semester, 3 credits each, and the tuition will be covered by the money from the grant. Okay? Once you're ready for looking for a job, we're going to have interview workshops, job search boot camps, resume writing, dining etiquette, networking clinics, and Rutgers Career Services is great. And they now service RBHS, so everybody should be entitled to use them. No? Yeah.
They don't cover our students yet.
Uh-huh.
We're in the process of trying because it was so far away. We are not part of Rutgers Newark, we're part of Rutgers New Brunswick. We're in the process of trying to make that available to you. But we can only make Rutgers New Brunswick available.
Right. Physically, you'd have to come to New Brunswick. Right.
There's a lot of information on the website and so forth. You don't actually have to go there for it. So we're
Yeah.
make it available to you. It's not
Yeah, it's very useful. And if you do want to set up a one-on-one meeting, I'm sure they could do that over the phone. You don't probably even have to go physically there. Okay. So how do you register for some of these activities? I mentioned the priorities going to be given to these, but they are open to everybody. Okay? I just want to get that message across. Everybody should be trying to sign up if they're interested. And we are going to require PI approval, and this is because it's important for us to change the culture of the PIs as well. I think that the students and postdocs have a perception that their PIs are more opposed to them going into non-academic careers than the reality. I think there's a disconnect between the students and the PIs. I think if you sat down with your PI and said, I'm interested in this career, that they would be more supportive than you anticipate, but I understand that there's a fear of having that conversation, and so what we're here to do is facilitate that conversation with you. And I think what we're trying to do is make it a non-issue, that you would show up in the lab from day 1 and have a conversation about what is your long-term goal. And that's the way it really should be. For phase 2, again, it's open to everybody, so even if you didn't get, let's say you didn't get into the PhD class this year, you can still apply to phase 2, assuming you've done 12 hours of activities to show your interest. And then if you get into phase 2, you can take PhD in phase 2. Does that make sense? Does everybody get that? So we don't want to say no just because you couldn't get in the first year. We understand there may be more interest than we have capacity for, so we're really trying to work with you to make it as open and available to everybody as possible. And we are interested in good students, but we understand that a student with a slightly less spectacular GPA could make a phenomenal business manager. And so we're not interested so much in your academics as we are in your desire to obtain a certain career goal. And you need to express that to us when you apply to Phase 2. And we'll be looking for a letter of recommendation from your PIs in Phase 2 as well. So that's kind of down here. Participation, your letter of interest, and a PI letter is required for Phase 2. Okay, so we have a website which is still in development, but what's going to happen is the activities are going to be posted on the website and on a special web calendar, and they're going to be Eventbrite links. So you will click on the Eventbrite link to register. The registration will open 4 weeks prior to the event date at noon. So those of you who like to sleep late won't be at a disadvantage. So for example, Sci-PhD, the first course is Monday, February 9th. Registration will open Monday, January 12th, so it's not January 9th, it's not the day of the month, it's 4 weeks to the day prior at 12 p.m. Does that make sense? Okay. And then, so you can know whether you were successful in registering, you will get an email to confirm that you're registered. And the website is going to be ijobs.rutgers.edu, and it's under construction. So we'll let everybody know when it's available. If you go to rubest.rutgers.edu, that's actually the current name, but we want it changed to iJOBS, so you can sort of see it in progress. So it's rubest.rutgers.edu right now, but it will be iJOBS. Okay, so the idea is that, let's say you're a third or fourth year pre-doc or a first and second year postdoc. In Phase 1, you'll be committing about 52 hours if you get into the Sci-PhD program and you do 12 hours of iJOBS programming. Because we're starting in January, this year's Phase 1 is kind of shrunk into a single semester. So the idea is that come fall 2015, you'll be entering Phase 2. So we will have applications for Phase 2 available this spring. Phase 2 will consist of about 150 hours of commitment, so that's 2 track-specific classes, 40 hours each, and an externship / shadowing, whatever you want to call it, which will be about 72 hours, or equivalent to 1 day a month. And then Phase 3 is, more flexible in terms of time commitment. Okay, and then as I said, alumni are going to be able to participate in the program itself. So if you're graduating this year and you really want to do it, you should apply come September to be in Phase 1, or just start coming to activities if you're alumni of less than 5 years post leaving. And that when I say alumni, I mean postdocs as well. I would consider as alum, not just graduate students. So somebody who was here less than 5 years ago can participate. And then again, I hope that alumni will come back and serve as mentors. I don't know where that is on here, but that's the general idea. So once you complete the program requirements, you will get a certificate of attestation, which is what we call it. This is different than a certificate that's like a degree certificate. That means you have done a certain number of credits, etc. This is something that you can put on your resume. Now what's interesting is this Sci-PhD class is becoming known out there in the workforce. So if you put down that you've done Sci-PhD, that will mean something to the people who are hiring you. And it's still not like everybody knows about it, but the goal is to have it become so well known that it'll make an impression on the people who are hiring you that you've done this class and then the rest of the program components. So this is the required program elements, which I've gone over ad nauseum. So again, tell your faculty that research is #1 priority, that they have to approve your participation in it. that there's no direct funding for your positions, that it will increase your overall productivity, because if you know what your goal is, you're going to be motivated to get to that goal, and you're going to be more productive in lab, right? Because you're going to be like, okay, need to get my experiments done, I need to publish my paper so I can go apply for that job. And if your faculty are interested in participating in the program, we welcome them to come. They can sit in on PhD, they can come to any of our career panels, brown bag lunches, whatever, because again, the more communication we have with the faculty, I think the better overall. And they probably have contacts in industry that we will benefit from. So tell them to let us know who they know. And you know, the NIH is backing us on this, so this is too wordy to read, but the idea came out about a month ago that postdocs in particular have two functions. One is research and the other is career training. The NIH has now defined that postdocs are not just workhorses and slaves in the lab, but that they must be trained and exposed to career paths. So the NIH is backing what we're trying to accomplish. And that was already true for graduate students. Okay, so I sort of mentioned this earlier, but the idea of sampling the supply and demand that's out there in New Jersey. And what we want to do is talk to people in the hiring managers and the people who are making the decisions about who gets the job. What is it that makes these people competitive for the job? And change our curriculum to adjust that. So we have hired the Heldrich Workforce Development crew, so that's Hal Salzman and Jennifer Cleary, who are going to do interviews of people who are hiring managers. They're going to use this Burning Glass software, and it's a whole research component of the NIH grant. So it's not just a training grant, it's a research grant as well. And we think that that makes our program unique compared to some of the other best programs. Conversely, we want the hiring people to understand what you guys have to offer them, right? Because we have phenomenal people coming out of Rutgers, and we want them to think about you first when they're going to hire somebody. So we want to let them know what are the kinds of research that we're doing here, what are the skills that you have that may fill some of the needs that they have, or they can change their research potentially to accommodate some of the things that we have to offer them. So it's a two-way street. We also have to, okay, so the NIH has sunk a lot of money into these BEST programs. Think of it, there's 17 schools getting $2 million each to do this. So they are being held accountable to show that the programs are successful. And to achieve that goal, they've hired an outside evaluator called Windrose, and they are going to be doing assessments of each of the programs using the same template so they can compare different schools and how successful the programs were. They're going to be tracking participants for 15 years after you leave Rutgers. There is a financial incentive to filling out the survey, so they hope that that keeps you going. But, you know, it's a great concept, and we're you know, trying to comply with them, but we also want to know our own, you know, evaluation and how we're doing and the specific programs that we're offering, are they benefiting you or not? So we will have an evaluation that's being done ourselves, as well as the NIH evaluation, and hopefully we won't get survey fatigue, and we'll try to make it as palatable as possible for everybody. But there might be qualitative and quantitative data, so you might, you know, have to sit in on a discussion and just sort of give your verbal feedback as well as filling out a survey. And you know, we want to share our best practices with everybody else. So there's going to be sharing amongst NYU and us, and we have an external advisory board. We're going to have conferences with people in the Big Ten. We're going to present at national conferences. We're going to write a peer review paper. In fact, today we were on a conference call with all of the other schools, and they've already written a paper about the best programs, and it's going to get published in PNAS soon. So, you know, the world needs to be aware of what's going on, and this is one way to tell you about it. Any questions? That's the end. Yes, sir.
So you talked about these programs that occur over the course of the next months, years. How many of them are happening here, and how many are happening?
Right. So, you know, I did say that starting in January, we're going to alternate locations for the career panels. We can alternate locations for the brown bag lunches. The site visits are completely off campus. So we are going to try to provide busing to those, assuming that there are enough people from the different campuses who need to go. And we can talk about providing a bus between campuses as well. I think that was in the discussion, and I think it's an important thing to make it as easy for everybody as possible. I completely hear what you're saying. I know a lot of stuff happens down in New Brunswick that you feel like you can't get to, and we want to make sure that it's relatively equitable. We do have a lot more programs down there because we have the undergraduate campus, and when I listed all that table, probably a quarter of them are up here. I don't know the numbers, the breakdown, but more than half of them are there, so we're just trying to balance it as much as possible. But I am very aware of that concern.
That list of coursework that you had, is that a list of courses that your team is looking to develop, or are those courses you've identified in the schools, in those programs that would be?
Yeah, it's the latter. So these are already
sitting in. So if you were going to do an intellectual property, you'd be sitting in a business, down at Rutgers Business.
right, or the law school up here or whatever. Yeah.
And those credits, okay, so rather than earning those credits towards,
They won't count towards graduation.
earning it towards your certificate.
Right, right. And you will not have to pay tuition for those because, we get charged tuition for you to take a class in a different school, even though it's all Rutgers. And eventually, because the money for the grant will run out in 5 years, that's why we want to develop our own classes and that are a little bit more targeted towards the real needs that you will, the skills that you will need. So, but before we get back our workforce data from the research component, we don't know necessarily, what are the best job where are the jobs really, and what class can we offer that will be the most targeted for that.
And then, so would students be auditing those classes, or would we be working for a grade, and then, so does the, do we
That's
have
a
to
good
maintain
question.
a specific GPA to stay in the iJOBS program?
I think we need to talk about that, yeah. We haven't gotten that far yet. That's a great question.
Some of those schools will not allow students to take the grade. We just have some of that we have to deal with. So,
Yeah, no, that's great. And these are the kinds of things, we all need to be made, reminded of so we can get the information.
One thing for the students here, we have not actually brought up IDP as an academic matter. That just went through the tech council last time. It'll get done, and you'll hear more about it. We have to speak to the faculty on that one as well. Dr. Thomas is just sort of waiting for his time. But you'll be brought up to speed on the people, so don't worry.
But if you they should already all be on the Sakai site.
They're all on the Sakai site.
So if you log into Sakai, you'll have access to it. But yeah, you don't, and there are assignments. We've created assignments that you have to complete. So if you're first year, you have to complete assignment 1, whatever. It's kind of spelled out. Hopefully it makes sense. Did you have a question? Other questions? Excitement?
Woohoo! The thing to say is that, as Janet said, there are some things here that even if you're going on to, or think you're going on to do academic research, you're going to an academic position, and you have no real interest in going into the tracks and so on and so forth that describe medical trials or, that some of these things are going to benefit everyone.
Right.
Some of these things are just, if I'm going to manage a lab, how do I learn how to manage a lab? It's pretty much many of the same things, or whether I'm going to manage a lab in an academic school, or I'm going to manage somebody in business. There are some of those skills that could be useful to you no matter what your career choice is. So I think, and at the same time, sometimes you may not want to commit to that 52 hours or 72 hours or whatever it is. That's fine too. Just the more you know about this, the
Right.
better it is.
And so the idea behind the programming, we have this 12 hours that's sort of, what we're looking for, but you can just come to 1 hour. We don't care, You can come to 2 hours, whatever. You can pick and choose. So if something seems particularly relevant to you, then come. If it seems extraneous, it's okay. But, if you want to really delve into the whole program, then we're looking for the 12 hours. we're trying to make it as flexible as possible.
And certainly if you're going on to phase 2 and going to apply to it, then at that point you have to sort of be committed to going through, because otherwise you're taking a position
Right.
that somebody else
You know, and it,
could otherwise have. But you're right, up until then, it's just there are all these things available.
right, you know, and just to clarify, phase 1 is ongoing every year. So, you know, there will be next year more career panels and more site visits, et cetera, and hopefully different ones so it doesn't just repeat itself, although we may have to repeat some of them. But, you know, you could just stay in phase 1 for the rest of your time here, and, you know, that would be perfectly fine. Yeah, but the academic part, I think, is important to, you know, a lot of the faculty have heard this and like, well, I could have used that when I was opening my lab because I don't know how to balance a spreadsheet and, you know, for budgets and stuff like that. Yes?
I have a general question. So we should be selecting Rutgers and Brunswick when we fill out things?
We are not part of Rutgers Newark. We are part of the RBHS, which is what the legacy of BHA.
Yeah.
All part of affiliated with Rutgers and Brunswick, not with Rutgers Newark. I think the exception to things that are available to you guys is the what is it? The writing center.
That you have here, yeah.
Essentially everything, good, better, and different, everything is down there. And I will say, the career services is phenomenal down there. That's why we're trying, even though it's at a distance, we're trying to see about what it would cost to actually get you guys.
Yeah, their website is very nice, you know,
I have some brochures that I brought back that you can hand out.
and workshops they offer and stuff, yeah.
Just to say, before you guys sign up for anything on the RBHS and Brunswick campus, just check with our office first to make sure that you're doing the right department. Because unfortunately, with the merger, some of the places, even in New Brunswick or Newark, don't realize where we stand as far as.
They'll redirect you to Rutgers Newark, thinking that we're in Newark, therefore we must be. And in fact, they don't know what they should know. And in fairness, it's complete.
Yeah.
Students selected for different tracks and go ahead and do PhD. In addition to the self-office here, they want to take do additional activities, maybe just for like learning outside. For example, take a boot camp course and get more experience. Would this program in any way complicated for the registration fees or help with that?
I'm guessing not, but we could talk about it. Yeah. I'll make a list of questions. Oops. Anything else?
One thing I would say would be that if you could, really if anyone, finds things that would be useful, bring them, and I mean it broadly, our attention, whether it's through the iJOBS program or just the GSBS office. We may still say no, but if there are ideas of what's available out there that could be offered, an example actually is the career services. You know, it's just Dr. Lutz and I were down there at career services after they showed us what they had. It was amazing, right? So in some cases, it's just letting us know. The iJOBS may not be able to pay for it, and in some cases, the GSBS here may not be
So,
able to pay
yeah.
for it. But if we know about it, then we would.
So don't do you guys have academy memberships?
So
Yeah.
all
All the PhD students get academy memberships as part of being of GSBS. So you should be a member, which causes reduced registration and everything else. Well, yeah, like the Sci PhD class that we're offering costs $700 if you take it at NYAS. But we're offering it here. We're paying for them to come here as part of the iJOB. So I think what Dr. Garrett's saying is if there are programs that you think we should bring in-house that we can replicate here, bring that to our attention. And that would probably be the better way. And then it serves the whole population as opposed to just one person going to New York Academy. Great. Any other questions? Yeah.
Our question's great. But the other thing, everybody please sign in. There's
Yeah.
empty work sheets down here that are the postdocs, the ones whose names already filled in. Check off your name. Just that way we know how many student degrees for postdocs
Yeah.
So how's that gonna be distributed up?
It's first come, first served, yeah.
First come, first served.
The website, the Eventbrites are not all completely. Some of them are, but they won't be able to register until the 4 weeks before anyway. So even if it's, that's why I have a very particular date and time that everything opens, so it's fair.
Understood.
But yeah, like if you don't, like I said, if you don't get in the first year and you show dedication and interest, we'll let priority for the second year.
Think about how much, that's
No
just
other
what
way
they're
to do it.
giving out. Think about what they spent in overhead on their end to set it up. They probably
Yeah,
almost
and
doubled.
postdoc was first and second. Yeah.
Yes, so on first year,